pleasure to look at all this data. In the past with me, Benjamin, it's kind of my first year dabbling in it, and there's so much stuff that you can gain from it. So what I did was I just took, on the back side there, you'll see what the state superintendent did, and I put it for Taylor. So, the back here you got this heavy duty, dark colored, really close together one for Michigan. I just kind of opened it up a little bit, maybe easier to digest for Taylor's results. I'm not going to sit here and go through every one of these, but I did compare 2016 to 2015, and I put just some highlights at the bottom of most pages, or some summary information to digest. But keep in mind, this is our second year. It was a different test last year to this year, so we're looking at two different things. So while some may be like, wow, you decrease here, but you increase here, know that it's apples to oranges. And every year it's just a snapshot of kids that go to a different grade. So there's so many things you can look at. But to highlight some of the stuff, I put some bullet points down there. Looking at English language arts, because that's a big push with our third grade reading. There was a drop from 15 to 16 in third and fourth grade, but in fifth and sixth grade, there's a gain. Then you have a little dip, a little increase, so it's all over the board. There's lots of things you can look at. I think one of the big ticket items for me that stand out the most is that if you look at all the kids who are not proficient, that number is steadily decreasing as our kids are going from not proficient to partially proficient. So we are working with them, and we are getting the changes that we want to see. We are moving them around. Progress is progress. Take it in stride. We're doing what we can. And again, we were just in the building. Oh, okay, sorry. I'm leaning over. It's bugging me. We were just in the building looking at the curriculum, and we are trying to streamline the process of making sure that every building is doing the same thing, and they all have a common plan that they're following that the district is aware of, so we can make sure that every teacher has everything that's the same and supports our kids with what they need. To follow up, if we take a peek at the math, again, we're increasing our kids to partially proficient. That number is getting smaller. Are our scores where we want them to be? No, but they're not the worst. By no means. Our kids are making gains at certain grade levels. We have lots of interventions. We have the reading LLI. We are looking at our math programs to see what we're doing there. Moving on to our science and social studies. This is kind of where Mr. Williams and Dr. Sear were getting to the point of we're looking at making sure that we're including all four core in our curriculum in our elementary schools and getting them where they need to be, because the fourth grade science score is pretty low. Same thing with the social studies. We're teaching it, but we need to look at taking a different approach. Change is good. Change it up. And lastly, on the last page for Taylor here, we have our SAT scores, which let me just premise this, that our kids did great on it. The state average was, I think, 999. I included, FYI, when you compare the state data to Taylor's, I believe the state included 11th and 12th graders. I did only the 11th grade for Taylor. The state average was 999. Taylor's average was 918. I think that's great. 82% of our kids were above the state average in their total score. So 82 out of the 409 that we tested were above the state average. When you look at the SAT score, a big piece of it is looking at college and career readiness, which is kind of new for us. 45% of our kids are college and career ready as defined by the College Board, which means that when they go into college, they should be able to sustain in a credit-based college course a passing grade to demonstrate proficiency and to carry that on there. Only 17% of our kids were college and career ready in mathematics. We're working on it. Got to look at it. It's a new year, a new test. It could be 17 this year. It could be 30 next. And again, we're just getting kids. We're testing them once in high school. So taking it in stride. I was going to look at some of the PSAT, but I decided I'd hold back on that. And again, I'm still learning it, so bear with me. I did include the ACT scores at the bottom there. And again, you got to look at this with new eyes, because ACT was on a 0 to 36, whereas SAT's 400 to 1600. So it's a change in mentality, a change in understanding of the information. And it just kind of summarized, we're trying to take a deeper look at our curriculum to make sure that we are doing what's best for kids, setting a unified standards of expectations, building to building, from preschool all the way up to 12th grade. You know, we're really looking at implementing a workshop model with our teachers. The spirit of coaching, it's just a different way of getting some professional development for our teachers. It uses a plan, teach, and debrief model. Internal, we're going to try to kind of pilot it in one school and then farm it out to the others and see how it goes. And again, any questions?
When you say on the SAT that we have 82 students out of 409 that are above the state average.
Yes, which means the state average was 999. They scored above that. So from 1,000 to a possible 1,600.
My question though is do we have any that hit the state average? This says it's above the state average. We have a group of kids that had 999.
That's a great question. I can find that out for you. I'm sure we did.
Because that would be
yeah, it's really, again,
good news too.
And I've been learning with College Board. I've done a couple of PDs at the county. I actually am going to see Sarah Thaler at the end of the month here for a different leadership meeting to kind of ask her some questions point blank about understanding this information, because it's unique and it's very dynamic. But I will take a look at that.
One observation I made is anytime, it's kind of like being measured by inches and then being measured by centimeters and then being measured by some other, some other metric. To only have a 2% difference in the first year of giving the SAT versus where we were with multiple years of history on the ACT. I think across the state there was a bigger dip. So, different kind of test, different scoring metric, similar performance though, only 2% difference between the two. I think if the 918 is our platform, if that's our foundation and we're building off of that moving forward, of course we have had many years of history with ACT prep and things like that embedded in the high schools to help kids with the ACT. We're brand new, as is everyone in the state, switching that gear to the SAT. So it'll be interesting to see how SAT prep type courses or PSAT coursework, once they're embedded, then positively impact that score. Clearly we want to grow up to and above the state average. So,
do we have anything strategically that we're trying to do to get those that are partially proficient into the level 2 proficient? I know a lot of times we work and we want to get everybody that's not proficient into proficient. Are we being strategic in trying to move those people that are close just over that line instead of going to those that are so far away to bring them up? And I mean, we should still be working with all of them, but it seems like there's some that we can just do a few things and bring them right over that.
I'm happy that you asked that question. It's a wonderful question. And actually, especially now with us doing all of our testing online, is we're getting data 48 hours afterwards. So currently, right now, we have our first and second graders taking a standardized English math test online. Well, you might argue, wow, it's impressive. You have first and second grade. You have 6 and 7-year-olds on a computer clicking buttons, taking a test, but that will provide, whether it's credible or not, some data to look at, and you can look at a student and say, you know what, looking at these 8 standards they assessed you on, you're really poor at these 4. So I'm going to pull in my interventionist and really work hard to get you to understand those fractions so that when you take this in the spring, you'll show some growth. So again, the online piece of this and getting the student feedback that fast is amazing. So yes, we are looking at highlighting those particular kids who aren't necessarily at the bottom. We'll call them per se, I don't want to use the term, but we'll call them our bubble kids. And to really focus on them and say, if you just did these few other things here, we can get you where you need to be.
And I think that's why the state's gone to the online testing, so that results can be obtained in the school year where the testing is done. And we can revert back to the original purpose of the testing, not to be punitive to educators and school districts, but to help students learn and know where their weaknesses and strengths are. So anything that can help with that is what our students need.
Right. And I'm almost going to point out the obvious. On a lot of them, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's class sizes make a huge difference in these scores. And our you know, what was it, 4% of the kids in math, I think that's.
Science,
Pardon me?
science.
Science, 4% of kids in science. If we see, and I think I'm going off what John said a little bit, but if we see that, you know, these kids are having this problem in science, and I'm going to state the obvious, we were looking for a science teacher last year, you know, do we eventually step back and say, okay, we do need to cut our science classes in half where there's more, not one-on-one, but where there's not 32 students, there's only 22 students in a class. Maybe that'll give the teacher more one-on-one time with these students, and instead of having full class sizes in a subject that they're not proficient in, that's where we need to start looking at cutting the class size. I'm sorry, you gotta sacrifice a little bit, cut the class size, and am I running along the lines of where we
Yes.
should be?
Yes, we actually, as we started meeting our elementary principals, and we're gonna start talking at our secondary principal meetings, is the deficit areas and where we need to make some changes. I do know, with the high school science and social studies, in particular, we'll talk about science. They were doing the full year of curriculum in just 2 trimesters. They have since gone to the 6-hour day and expanded to a full year now. And again, the state science standards just changed, and we are in the process of implementing, repacing, reorganizing all the curriculum that we have and moving forward. But that's a step right there, is we're increasing the amount of time we have to get that instruction across. We're not just doing, I'm only gonna go an inch deep for 2 tries, I'm gonna go a mile deep, and, because I have 3 tries now to get through all this with you, to make sure that you make those connections. I do know elementary-wise, again, we've started having these conversations with our principals, and we're gonna start to talk with our staff of, we need to start looking at making sure every core gets its set time, and we're teaching it with fidelity, and we're teaching it with depth, so that the kids can make those connections and can, in fact, have a good understanding of what they're learning.
Okay, because that's where I was
Yes.
seeing this and going, okay, you got a class of 32 kids, and then, you know, 20 of them just get it. You know, the 12 of them that just aren't getting it, the curriculum still has to go forward. So these kids are just kind of being left behind, and then once you get to that next one, it's like it's almost like just,
Yeah.
so.
Yes, I understand.
I can help you with that.